Hey friends, hello, happy Wednesday, good morning. Welcome to Craft Your Joy Live. I'm Lisa Hetrick. I see everybody popping in. Holy smokes, it's cold. So a lot of people popping in from warm places and cold places. So a little bit cold this morning, hence the scarf. I have a really fun tutorial I'm going to share today. It's number 2 in our holiday series, and I'm super excited to share it with you today. So let's just say good morning to everyone. We got a lot of friends that have popped in. Hi, Rhonda, Catherine, Judith, Dawn from Baltimore. Hi, Dawn. It's cold, isn't it? Cherie, hey, Cherie, Pamela, Sharon, Barbara, hey, Wendy, and Colleen, hey. And Colleen's joining us from Facebook. Everybody else looks like they're joining us from YouTube. So I'm glad it's working on both of the platforms. So super fun. Okay, friends, today's tutorial is going to be an oversized card that can double as a matted piece, like a framed piece, a frameable piece for a 5x7 frame. So I'm going to show it today. We're going to walk through it. We've got watercolor techniques that we're going to cover today. Super simple. Stamping and gold embossing. And friends, you all know that I'm like embossing challenge sometimes. So this is going to be super fun. And I'm doing a two set mashup of stamps. So let's just dive in and take a peek. If you have questions along the way, just pop them in the chat with a Q so that I can answer them, and I'll answer them live. And we're just going to chat, stamp, do all kinds of things, have some watercolor funsies, and yeah, just hopefully give you some inspiration for your holiday projects. Okay. All right, friends, let's go ahead to the down camera. Now, all of the supplies that I'm sharing today are already listed below in the description here on YouTube. They will be listed over on Facebook shortly after the live. Okay, so let me just kind of come in a little tighter here. Not that tight. Let's just pop back out a little bit. All right, here is the inspiration for the project that we're going to make today. Now, this is number 2 in the holiday series. This was the first project that we made together Not last week because that was Thanksgiving, but the week before. So this is super fun, and we're building off of these watercolor concepts. This was a really fun ornament or like a package tag thing. So if you missed this, I'll link that up down below, but it's right there in my feed. It was the live that we did, not last week, but the week before. Okay, so this is number 2, continuing on with our holiday theme, but this is a little bit more clean and simple. We're going to do some watercolor techniques and overstamping with gold embossing. Okay, so let me just grab the 2 stamp sets that I'm going to be working with. This is my latest release with Gina K called Friendship Blooms, inspired by modern embroidery. Super duper love it, but guess what? It's got leafery elements in it, and we're going to be working with those leafery and star out pattern elements in today's project. And I'm mashing it up with Merry Everything. This might be my favorite stamp set ever that I've created. I know I say that. Like, I love these, and every month we come out with a new one. When I come out with my new set, I say the same thing, but I'm loving the combination of these two. When I created these for Gina K, I created them at around the same time because I wanted you to be able to use these builder elements to build within each set. And that's the beautiful thing about my stamp sets with Gina K, is that all of my stamp sets work in proportion to each other. And I think all of you know this. So all of these elements work with each other, and you can, if you've got multiple sets from my collection, you can use them together because they work together. Okay. All right, friends, let's go ahead. These are the stamp sets that we're working with, and we're going to dive in. I've also listed down below that I'm using Master Layouts for this scalloped die, and I'm going to show you how and why. Now, the watercolor paper I'm using is Strathmore Ready Cut Watercolor. That's listed below. And the oversized card is from ADHESIVE. I had a couple boxes of these, so I wanted to dig them out. I'm not sure if they're available anymore. I did list an alternative in the description if that's something you're interested in. But these are 5x7, 100% cotton watercolor cards. Super, super thick. And they come with envelopes, which is kind of nice. So that's what I'm using today as our base for the project. Okay, let's dive in. Let me just move this out of the way. Kind of pop that over here. We're just going to dive in. Ah, Pamela just said, Merry Everything is her favorite stamp set too. Oh my gosh, I just love it. And I feel like I haven't used it enough, so that's why I dug it back out. Okay, now I've got a piece. We're getting right into it, friends. I've got a piece of Strathmore Ready Cut Watercolor. Got a piece of watercolor paper. Let's just move that to the side. We're going to do a couple different things today that are very different. Now, here is just a 3x5 mat. This whole thing fits in a 5x7. And I basically just used this so that I could do my corners here. I wanted this shape because it fits the best on this. It proportionally works the best on this 5x7 card. Now, you could easily just cut this shape out, but we are going to do our stamping and all of our watercoloring, then we're going to cut it out. Okay, super simple. So let's just move that to the side. And then I'm going to tape this down. I'm going to tape this down because we're going to get a little bit of washy watercolor going. So let's just go ahead and tape that down. Let me move a few things out of the way here and come in a little tighter, just in case we need to. I'm going to tape this down, and this is just some painter's tape. You could also use some of the purple tape, but for some reason I couldn't find my purple tape that was this size, so I've got this big honkin' purple tape, which I like to use. I like it very much. So let's just see. I'm going to pop this down here, and I'm going to do just a little bit of tape on this side here. Is that crooked? It feels crooked to me. Let's see. Let me pop this up. It feels crooked. Let's move it. Let's bring it down a little bit there. There we go. My eyes are playing tricks on me. Okay, just go ahead and tape this down. And the reason why I'm taping this down is because we are going to do some super wet washi techniques. And I just kind of want the paper to stay still. We're going to lift the paper up when we do the embossing techniques. But let's just go ahead and dive in. Okay, I'm going to start with the big honkin' triangle shape from Merry Everything, and this is going to give us our base for watercoloring. Now, my watercolor set, I didn't list it, and here's why. Because y'all have a watercolor set, and we're going to basically be working with two colors, a green and this like turquoise blue. I'm just going to take a little bit of that color, pop it down here so that you can see it. The green and the turquoise blue. Now, this is my mystery palette. Like, I made this palette, and I don't remember what colors I put in it or what brand. I think they're M Grams, but you know what? Something's telling me that that's Cascade Green from Daniel Smith. I think this is like a mix mash of colors that I had just sitting around. So I just kind of popped them into this cute little schminka tin. And I just think it's super cute. At least I had the wherewithal to swatch it so I knew what it was. But normally I write that stuff down, but I didn't. Okay, so now we're going to take our stamp, and I've got my brush here, and I'm going to take some of this green. It looks like a chromium oxide green. That's what it looks like. I'm going to, let's just take this little piece of watercolor paper. See how opaque it is? So I feel like it's a chromium oxide green because it's got like that opacity in it, but I really like it. It looks like a tree green to me. So we're using it. We're going to use it today. So I'm going to get my brush nice and juicy here, and I'm just going to paint this color on to my shape here. And I'm not going for perfection, and here's why. I'm going to see why. We're going to stamp this down, and I'm going to stamp this so that it's kind of going off of the bottom here, because I need some height up at the top for my star. Ooh, I can't really see what I'm doing. Here we go. Let's just pop that down. And I'm not giving it a ton of pressure. I'm just giving it a really light pressure, because we're going to go in. Now, we're going to use the color that's there, and we're just going to start to paint. Use the color that's there and just activate the edges with a brush. I'm using a number 6 brush today. I'm using these Princeton Heritage brushes. I've been using them a lot lately because they hold a lot of water, and I like them. So that's why I'm using them. They hold a lot of water, and I like them. So we've got that little bit of an outer edge here. I'm going to start to just take my brush and wet the inside here. Let the watercolor do its thing, but this is how I'm getting my shape. Now, if you don't have this stamp, the stamp set, no worries. You could easily just tape off a triangle shape. Oops, look at that. Got a little bit of water going there. You could easily just take your tape and tape off a shape, or freehand cut that shape. It won't keep you, I don't want that, having that stamp set keep you from doing it. Keep you from doing this project. So you can easily just kind of create that shape. Now the inside here is super wet. I'm going to come back in. I'm going to take a little bit of that chromium oxide, and I'm going to drop it in and let it do its thing. Look at it. It's pretty intense. So I'm just going to move it around a little bit. That color is intense. Just let it do its thing. Do you see how it's spidered? This tells me this chromium oxide, I feel like it might be, I got to figure out which brand that is, because it's a runner. I don't know. We'll figure it out. All right, I'm going to take a little bit of that turquoise. That turquoise I know is M. Graham. I'm just going to drop that in and let it do its thing. Just kind of coax it around. Now, the more water I add, the more the two colors become friends. This chromium oxide also has a little bit of a granulation in it. You can see it right here, how we're getting like some granulation going, which means the pigment is separating and kind of creating a lot of texture and dimension, which is lovely. Now I'm leaving, this is a little bit darker than I'd like it to be, but that's okay because remember, watercolor fades back when we dry it. I've got this little puddle here, not loving it, so I'm going to take the tip of my, and look, it acts like a little wick, and it just kind of takes away that color. You can see I'm just kind of dropping this in. Loving that. Loving it. Okay. Got a little bit of water right there I don't love. Now, this feels a little kind of like overwhelming. A little bit too much. I kind of want a little bit more of the white paper showing down in here. So I'm going to take my paper towel here and just dab a little bit off. But you notice that these two colors, they're staining. So they're not going to come off completely. This turquoise, oh my goodness, look at that happening right there. That is just gorgeous, that granulation that's happening. So the colors are staining. And you'll see that with some watercolors. Some are really super transparent and you're able to lift them off. And it's like they never ever existed on the page at all. And then some colors are granulating and staining. These two colors are staining. The green is got some opaque qualities to it, that's chromium oxide, and it's got that pigment in there that's granulating, separating from its, the pigments are separating, so you see the little granules giving that extra texture. And the turquoise is doing the same thing. And it's just creating that beautiful like look of granulation, which creates a lot of extra texture. I'm really digging the way this looks. And I just totally nerded out there. So it's a big nerd out day. If this is your first time, watching one of my lives, I nerd out on techniques every week. Something new comes, a revelation, and I especially like to nerd out with watercolors and color combinations. Okay, so let's go ahead. I'm going to dry this. I've got my heat tool here. We're just going to go in. I've got this little Wagner. I've had many heat tools. I'd love to hear your friends. I'd love to hear your experiments with heat tools. I've had many heat tools over the years. I've caught many on fire. I've burned myself. I've done all the things with heat tools. And this one, this Wagner so far, has like been a champ. And I haven't hurt myself with it. So that's kind of fun. And I haven't caught anything on fire. So let's go ahead. We're just going to heat set this. Not heat set, just dry it. Because I'm going to show you. You can see that water. See how I'm moving it around with the heat? Gives you a little control. Okay. I want to make sure that's really nice and dry. And this glass mat's super helpful. I'm not like burning anything or warping anything. Hi, Sandy. Sandy just popped in. Nice to see you. Okay. Now, remember how concerned I was about like these colors being too dark and bold? Well, they look fantastic. So they've dried back quite a bit. I'm going to come in a little tighter so that you can see. They've dried back quite a bit, but I've got my granulation that still stayed. You can see all that granulation. I've got a little bit of that outer edge that's giving me that 3D quality that I'm going for. It looks like I've got a little bit of a boogered spot up there. So nice. Okay, now we're going to do our stamping over top. And we're going to come in. And here we go, friends. It's gold embossing time. We're going to see what happens. Now, the beautiful thing about this technique is that, and these stamps, is that you don't have to use these stamps. If you have other stamps in my collection, you know that there's leafery bits everywhere in every single one of my stamps in my collection. You could easily recreate this look with anything that you have in your stash. So we're going to be using this Lazy Daisy leafery piece in combination with its two-step stamping friend. So we're going to start first with some of our embossing. Catherine just said, I couldn't find the straight Wagner, so I bought the smaller one, angled one. Fits in your hand better. Still using, oh boy, she said, I'm still using my Ancient Derice. I had one of those too. I caught that on fire. I also had a Marvy. I used to teach a lot in a local store called Photo Scraps here in Maryland, in Sykesville, Eldersburg. I taught for many, many years, like 7, 8, 9, I don't know, a lot of years. I taught Copic markers. I taught a lot of techniques in that class. So I had a lot of those heat tools. I had a lot of these things for students. And I did catch so many things on fire. So super fun. Or not, or kind of funny, or, you know, funny little crafting things that happen. Okay, here's my Lazy Daisy leafery. I'm going to line the top part of this up with the tip in the tippy top of the tree. Now, I'm embossing challenged. I've got some detail gold emboss powder that I just spilled everywhere. I'm going to have to lift this up and off for the moment so that we can do our emboss powder. But I'm going to keep my tape because I'm going to use it again. Let's get my finger underneath here and lift this up. So see how that kind of really, taping it down kind of helped keep it nice and flat. Now it's going to get buckled, but that's okay. I'm going to show you a technique at the end that's going to help us with that buckling. All right, I've got my, now I'm trying to not make a super huge mess with my gold emboss powder, but I love this gold emboss powder. I've got a piece of paper, just a piece of printer paper, and I'm going to go ahead and stamp this on here. I've got the Gina K Embossing Watermark inks. Got one of these little things here. Normally I don't use them. These are these embossing, it smells like baby powder. Somebody drop in the chat what this thing is called because I can't remember. It's one of those anti-static things that you put on your project. And because I'm using watercolor paper, I'm just going to go ahead and put it on here. And supposedly it will keep your embossing looking a lot cleaner. But it is me, and you know, we'll see what happens. Okay, I'm just inking this up really, really well, and I'm going to work on this in threes. I'm going to do the leafery pieces one at a time, and then I'm going to do the double stamped star, and I'm going to show you how I'm combining two patterned pieces for the star. Now, let's just go ahead and line that up, stamp that down, and I really got it kind of nice and juicy. I'm going to let that go for a second. Nice and juicy because we are using watercolor paper, and watercolor paper it's thirsty. This paper is super thirsty. It's 100% cotton. I still got some boogery spots right there, but I did pretty good. I've got one of these big old makeup brushes that you can use to kind of wipe. Let's move this. Let's shimmy this back in before I make a huge mess. Pop in the chat how many of you do embossing, because you very rarely see me do this on this channel. Let me grab this big honkin' makeup brush. So I got this big makeup brush I found somewhere. I can't remember. But I'm going to use it after I heat emboss to just kind of get all this extra stuff off. I can also like kind of flick, come around here, kind of flick some of this extra stuff off. Now, immediately as I go in with the heat tool, this paper is going to start to bow. So the heat tool is pretty hot because I just used it. And I'm going to come in on the back just to kind of get this heated up. All right, now it's gold. Usually I'm pretty good with gold. Let's get it going. Oh, it's coming up. And I have a habit of overcooking this. So we can see that it's shiny, and you can see that a little bit right there didn't get cooked. But it got cooked. Looks like everything's cooked. Okay. Love it. Okay. Judith says, I enjoy emboss. Cherie said, I love embossing, but never tried it with watercolor. Well, you got to try it because I feel like it's super fun. I kind of went a little bit far out that way with it. I kind of wanted that to nest down here a little bit. So it's not, it's fine. It's good. It's good. Wendy just shared, it's a challenge for me to heat emboss on watercolor paper, but I keep trying. So if it's a challenge to heat emboss, look at my paper, it's all bowy. We're going to fix that. If it's a challenge to heat emboss on your watercolor paper, try using either like a Canson or the Strathmore, where it is, if you like the 100% cotton paper that like I do, it works really well, but it is a little bit less thirsty than like a more expensive watercolor paper that's a little bit thicker. So you could also use your Misty if you wanted to put this in and you wanted to like hit it twice. But I didn't get the Misty out. So Wendy just shared she overcooks too. I overcook all the time. So I was really kind of shocked that I didn't do that this time. So yay me, right? Okay, and I am a little bothered that I didn't get this down, like I wanted this to kind of go down lower like that, but that's okay. She's just going to be a wispy, whimsical tree. And we're going to dig it. We're just going with it. Okay, we're going to do the same thing for our second piece. I'm going to line this up kind of like right there. We're going to go with it. Oh, I closed up. Look, I'm going to leave that sitting on top there. Close that up a little bit. Oh, I hope I got it. Hope I got it. We'll see. So, you know, I'm not like the best embosser on the planet, but I really wanted to use the gold, and I really wanted to share this technique today. So I think we're good. I think we're doing all right. I kind of, yeah, kind of digging it. Okay. We're going to pop this in just to kind of clean as I go there. And then come in, see if I can get some of this little bit of extra stuff off. And then we'll come in and heat it. Okay. Hopefully we have some success with the second heat. That should come up pretty quick. Let me turn this sideways to the light so that you can see. It should come up pretty quick. I'm trying not to overcook. Well, that looks good. Oh, I'm digging that. Okay, loving it. All right, we're going to keep it and come back in, just kind of do a whoosh. But look at our colors. So we've got this gold over top of our green and our blue. It's kind of our granulating colors. It still looks really, really beautiful. Loving that. All right, now we're going to come in and do the gold two-step for the top of our star here. Oops, got a little something extra popping up on the screen that shouldn't be there. So there we go. Catherine says, I love that big honking fluffy brush. Yeah, I feel like I got it. I don't even know what it says. I feel like I got it like at Five Below or something like that. And I just kind of use it to, you know, in the office. I'm looking at that. I feel like I might have overcooked it a little bit, but we'll see. Okay, now I'm going to do the star element in gold. And we're going to use two pieces. We're going to use this piece right here, and we're going to use that piece right there. So we've got that combination of a solid right there and an open line. I'm going to use that. We're going to start with the open line. Here's my little star piece. And we're going to do, I'm going to do this, let's see, we'll do it in one, we'll see if we can do it in one pass. We're going to do some gold embossing for both of these. So I'm just inking this up. I'm lining the center of that stamp up with the tip, and hopefully it'll line that gold piece of leafery up too. Okay, let's just go ahead and stamp that down. And then real quick, I'm going to work, actually I can't. I'm going to have to come in right out of the gate because I won't be able to see to line up. Oh, that looks good. Won't be able to see to line up my other piece. So let's go ahead in with this. This might be the reason why I don't do a lot of embossing, is because there's so much back and forthing. And, you know, there's so much. Let's see if we can. Oh, crap. Tidy that up a little bit. So much back and forthing and so much margin of error, which, you know, I don't really care about margin of error, but I really like this effect. So I wanted to push myself a little bit. Okay, let's go in. And the other thing is, with the watercolor, let's turn this to the side to make sure it's getting cooked. The other thing is with the watercolor is it is going to act as a resist when I start to watercolor it. Well, I'm liking the way that looks. Okay, now I'm going to come in with this stamp and do the same thing with the gold emboss. So if you make like a little bit of a mistake around here or here, it's really not going to be a big deal because you're coming in with the solid right over top of it. And then okay, stamp that down. Let's pop this open. Oh boy. Just kind of come in. Look at all that fuzz everywhere. Let's just get that off. I'm going to flick it off. Hopefully this will come out. Not my best embossing work, but not bad. What does Gina say? Better than horrible? Better than horrible. That's kind of a funny saying. I really don't like care about kind of stuff like that because it and I got that gold detail embossing powder everywhere right now. So good question. Dawn just said, can you stamp the second stamp after placing the first powder before applying the heat? Yes, you could, but I couldn't see it. My issue was that I couldn't really see where it was. I'm going to take my brush and kind of come in with this little bit here before I cook this. You can take a smaller brush and just kind of pull away some of those pieces. I couldn't really see where I was going with it, so that's why I did the two-step with the gold. I'll turn this sideways. A little bit right there. Okay. All right. Now, I'm going to take this whole thing. I've got one more thing we need to gold emboss, and that's our sentiment for peace. You should see all the gold emboss powder I have all over the place. Funny. We're going to do the gold. We're going to do peace, and I'm going to do that in gold down here. And I'm going to try really hard this time to make sure we don't booger it up. My paper is really getting bowed here, but that's okay. I'm going to share a little trick for that. We're going to get out my embossing ink. Got a little bit of emboss powder in my ink, but that's okay. I'll get it out later. I'm going to take the piece sentiment. Let's see. We're going to see where this lands. I want it to kind of be here on this bottom. Let's see how it looks. So, I'm embossing powder challenged. Why don't you drop in the chat, what do you find in your crafting or your paper crafting adventures or painting adventures? What's your biggest challenges? This gold embossing stuff is a huge challenge for me because I've been doing it for years and I've taught it and I've done all the things, but I always make like such a huge mess and I get stuff everywhere. And I could probably do better if I just took my time, but you know. All right, we're going to take peace. Get that nice and gold and bossy. That looks good. There are some of my friends that are a lot better with the embossing. A lot better. But that's okay. We're kind of doing a mixed media thing here. Now, my paper is like super duper buckled. So back to the tape, because I want to do some more watercoloring of my backgrounds before we add a little bit more to it. So I'm going to tape this back down so I can work with this. Yeah, Barbara said it looks pretty. I think it looks pretty. I think it looks pretty. Well, that's pretty crooked is what it is. Let's fix that. Okay. Let's come on down. Oh, this paper is so like bowed right now. That's okay. I'm going to tape this back down, do a little bit more watercoloring, and then Catherine just shared watercolor is my biggest challenge. And that's why I appreciate your live so much. Well, thank you. I just think watercolor is super fun. It's very meditative. It's also like, it can be very forgiving. It's wild and wonky and whimsical, and it can be very, very forgiving. You just have to remember that watercolor goes where the water is. It just wants to go wherever the water is, and that's its primary objective. Okay, so now I'm going to wet the entire background here. Just taking my brush, my brush is wet, the paper's dry, and we're going to go in and do a little bit of washy watercolor with some of that turquoise for our background. Thank you, Dawn. She said it looks very pretty. Never would have thought to combine the two mediums. Well, great. That's the whole point of today. Is A, some holiday inspiration, and B, just kind of take it to another level and learn a few things. Kathy just shared my biggest challenge is ink blending. Oh, I love it. Can do a good job at it, but my shoulder always suffers. Watercolor is easier. Yes, it is easier. I'm going to put some of this turquoise down here. Now, ink blending with brushes and inks, super challenge for me because I'm heavy-handed. So I usually end up just dropping some of this watercolor in. And yes, I'm dropping it in randomly and no worries. we're going to blend it out a little bit. My biggest issue with ink blending is that I'm heavy-handed and I always end up dropping in a little bit too much ink in like one like blop. So, you know, if you want some really amazing tutorials on ink blending, you need to head over to Mindy Egan's channel. Holy smokes, that girl. She's like an ink blending pro. And she does it almost like in every video. She's really, really good at getting those graduations of color. Where I like to be, you know, a little less precise, as you can see. Now, I'm going to go in. You can see that the gold is resisting a little bit. So I'm going to drop a little bit of that turquoise right in there. And just kind of let that do its thing. Hi, Linda. Good morning from Alaska, she said. Linda just dropped in. Nice to see you. Okay. So any of that little splooch that I had from the gold embossing is kind of going to get covered up a little bit with our background here, our turquoisey background. And I'm just taking a little bit of water. You can see that I'm just dancing it around a little bit, letting it do its thing. All right, I'm going to come in with this and I'm going to dry it, but I'm going to try to be really careful not to overheat the gold embossing. We'll see what happens, because if I overheat it, I'm going to end up overcooking it. So I'm just going to go in like from a distance and just kind of focus on from height. Just go around in a circle quickly. Oh, look at that granulation. Any place that's a little bit wet, look, I'm just going to dab it off, come in, go around. Okay. Okay. It is kind of dry. And I'm digging it. I'm going to let it be. Now, this paper is like super duper wonky. So I'm going to show you a little bit of a technique to kind of flatten out this paper before we move on to cutting it. But before we do that, we're going to add the pops of cherry red. So I've got cherry red here, Gina K Cherry Red. And I also have this little tiny leafery stamp. It's got some gold emboss powder on it. So let's go ahead. You know what, friends? I want to give you a good laugh. So everybody who does tutorials and shares teaching things, you know what? We're not perfect. Look at this. I'm going to pop out. Look at that. That is gold emboss powder everywhere. Mess. Messy, messy, messy. Okay, let's come back in. All right, we're going to take this piece of leafery, and this fits perfectly in our leafery pieces here. So I'm going to drop that in. Hi, Donna. Donna just popped in. And I'm not going to put that red in every single space, but I am going to like kind of just put it in a few and see how I feel about it. Pop that in there. That cherry red is mixing with the watercolor, so we get another whole color happening here. Let's clean that up. Love that. Loving the way this looks. Barbara said, messy is a sign of creativity. Holy smokes, Barbara. When I start to paint, the ideas start to flow. Everything gets yanked out. And we just start playing. I think I like the way this looks. I kind of want to put something maybe here. I don't know. Let's see. Let's see how I'm feeling about it. Let's put one right there. Okay. Loving that. All right. So we've got all this texture and dimension happening without any height to our project. Now I'm going to come in with my little tiny dot. Now, between those two stamp sets, there are lots of little dots. There's a dot here. Look, there's the berries, so I could use the berries if I wanted to, but I really want to go in and just use that little dot, and that dot in the red is going to act as a, like a polka or a little embellishment, but it's stamped on. Hi, Donna. Donna said, I signed up for one of your watercolor classes. I can't wait to start. I know you did. I can't wait for you to start too. Okay, friends. So Donna mentioned my watercolor classes in the Craft Your Joy classroom. So right now in craftyourjoy.com, I am running a 30% off till Friday. 30% off all of my classes. So it's a deal. It is a big deal. You can use that coupon code as many times as you'd like. You could use it if you wanted all the classes. You could use it on all of the classes. So the coupon, holy smokes, the coupon is Holly Jolly. I'll have to look that up. I'm pretty sure you'd think I would know this. The 30% off, here, let me just look that up real quick for everyone. The 30% off, Lisa, let's find it. That's if I kept it. There we go. Yeah, it came out in my email. Oh, I was right. The code is Holly Jolly. Okay? HOLLY Jolly. You can use it at checkout as many times as you'd like. Look, this is the email that went out to everybody this morning or yesterday. Here's the code, Holly Jolly, for the Craft Your Joy classroom. 30% off. I have never done 30% off all the classes. Now, my signature watercolor class that's in there called Watercolor Wonderland, it's a $99 class, so 30% off, that's not too shabby. So if there's something you like, go grab it. The sale will end Friday. And I have 9 classes in there. I also have the free classes in there too. So no worries. If you want to just try some things out, you can go check out the free class. All right, I've got all these little dots going. Wendy, I hear you. I hear you. I hear you. Same. I've done a little bit of that myself lately. Okay, now I'm loving the way this looks. I want to add a little something extra right here. It is the holiday season. We're all spending money. So things can get out of control sometimes with holiday spending. So don't forget, I will probably run another sale again. But you can always take advantage of some of the free offerings. You know, I come here live. We've got free classes that I do on YouTube. But if you're interested in taking a deeper dive, you can always just take advantage of the sale at craftyourjoy.com for my online classes. And they're self-paced. And if you ask questions along the way, you're getting the answers from me right there in the classroom. Okay, digging this, loving it. Now, it's super buckly. Now I'm gonna bring in the technique of the day. Okay, we're gonna pull the tape. Pull the tape. I'm gonna show you how super buckly this is. Okay. All right, see how super buckled it is? Now, here's the technique of the day. This is just a piece of, I don't know, flour sack towel. Just a little piece of cotton. Catherine said the red accents are lovely. The red just really helps make the blue pop. Remember, complementary colors or colors on our color wheel that are opposite of each other will make each other pop, which is super, super fun. Now, I'm going to take this and turn this over and wet it just a little bit. Just a little bit. Now, the reason why I can do this is because this is 100% cotton paper. It's watercolor paper. I can do that. And now I have an iron, okay? And I'm going to take this iron and I'm just going to go over it really super quickly. I don't want to heat it too much because it'll end up heating my gold embossing. But really, I've got it on the lowest cotton setting. You can see this this iron doesn't get a lot of action. It's broken. Had it for probably 25 years. Okay. Perfect. So now I've got my paper flattened back out. And because it's 100% cotton paper, you can spray it with water and then you can iron it. You could also take it and run it through your die cutter, like and flatten it out. But I didn't want to bring the die cutter into the screen today. Okay, now we're going to go ahead and cut this piece out. We're going to start to assemble our card project. And I'm going to just follow my lines here that I created with pencil. We're just going to ballpark it. And if it's off, it's off. So I'm just going to follow my lines. The tree is going to be bleeding off of the bottom a little bit. Okay. I'm going to come around here. There's my line. And then come around here. Let's bring that down a little bit. And just kind of trim that up. So now we have our piece. Looks so good. Let's go ahead and pop this out of the screen. We're going to bring in my watercolor cardstock. This piece can also double as a framed piece. That's 5 by 7. Loving that. But before we do that, I'm going to show the original inspiration. I've got that scalloped edge. That's just that subtle white watercolor paper on white. See how subtle that is? And I think it just really gives it a little bit of extra pop. So I took the master layouts for scallop die and just cut it out in a piece of watercolor paper. And what we're going to do is, because that scallop has that stitching, it's like that perforated stitching there. Just going to cut that right there. And we're going to use these scallops as an embellishment. They're a little bit too long, but that's okay. Just going to cut them off and we're going to glue them down. But first, we're going to put this piece down. Loving the way this looks. This came out pretty good. I really wish I would have went down a little bit further, but it's kind of got like a little bit of leafery that's blowing in the wind, right? It's got a little bit of energy going with it. Now, I am going to bring in, here we go, some, thank you, Gloria, a little bit creative. Okay. I'm going to grab some of my foam tape and just go ahead and put a piece at the bottom here, a piece at the top. I like to use this pretty low profile foam tape. It gives the card just a little bit of lift, but also if you end up putting this in a frame, it won't get smooshed behind the glass. And you could cut this if you wanted to, but I just tear it. It's pretty easy to tear. And you could use less, but I really want this to stick well. So let's go ahead and pull that off. Whoosh. And, you know, it's very rare that we see like these oversized cards. So I just really kind of wanted to come in and do a little bit of an oversized card today, make it a little bit fun. Think about these color combinations. So I'm sticking with those blues and greens, but if you did, you could do it in any color combination. I'm going to eyeball this before I commit, just totally eyeballing this. If you don't like to eyeball, you could easily just measure things out, but I'm not a big measure person. Just like to eyeball it. Raise your hand if you hang pictures on the wall and you do a little eyeballing. Got a little bit of pencil mark right there. I'm just taking out with a little bit of an eraser. Now, my scallops here, I've got some height, so I'm going to come in underneath it with my scallops. And my scallops are a little bit long, so I'm going to trim there and trim right there. So let's go ahead, grab my scissors, trim, just kind of pop that there. Let me just double check again where I am with that. That one's right there. Trim that out. It's a little bit wonky. So let's take a little bit of Gina K glue. I didn't test my glue before we started, but let's just go ahead and do that. Hold this down. A little bit of glue going across it, a little bit of a bead of glue. This is where them tweezers would come in handy, right? If I wasn't tweezer challenged. All right, we're gonna drop that in and just kind of let that sit right there on the top. You can see, just adds a little bit of extra something at the top. It's not popped up. It's sitting behind the card piece. Love it. Love the way that looks. All right, let's come in with the next one. I know I'm going to be cutting this here. Coming in, trimming that right there. Just kind of took my fingernail to it. And then coming in. Okay, just add a little bit of a bead of glue. So next week I'm going to be coming back with our, it might be the last in our holiday series. I think I'm going to go for 4 in the holiday series, but we'll see. Next week we'll be back with another holiday series idea using some of the stamps in my collection in different ways for holiday projects. And just kind of popping this in right underneath it. A little bit of a bead of glue. Adding that little bit of extra texture. Just kind of that little bit of scallop just kind of dials up that whimsy a little bit more. All right, I'm liking the way this looks. The gold embossing came out pretty well, you know, for being embossing challenged. Came out really well. Here was our original inspiration. I'm digging that too. I'm loving both of these. Now, these cards, this is a 5x7 card, so you could easily just pop this into your 5x7 frame, or you can send it. And you can pop your sentiment in. These are 100% cotton watercolor paper. Super duper. Love that. Okay, friends. Okay. Holy smokes. That was a super fun project. A little messy, but that's okay. I hope you got a lot of value or learned a little bit something different today with the combination of using watercolor with stamps over top of watercolor. We did some washy watercolor techniques. We did gold embossing. Kind of our holiday project was an oversized card that doubles as a 5x7 piece of decor that you could use right now. So super fun. Okay. I will be back next week with a brand new project, and it will be next Thursday. I'll be back next Thursday. If you're on my email list, that'll be popping into your inbox, letting you know when it's happening. I will be posting it out in social media as well. Everybody's saying that they love it. Love the card. Love the card. Good. I hope you got a lot of value out of today's tutorial. So, friends, if you're interested in any of my watercolor classes at craftyourjoy.com, 30% off till Friday midnight-ish, I think. Use the code Holly Jolly. You know, that was pretty original, right? Holly Jolly for 30% off any of my classes. You can use that code over and over and over again from now through Friday. And We'll be back next week. Everybody's saying thank you, thank you. Thanks so much for joining me. I know that you could be doing 1,000 other things during this time, and I'm really grateful to you for joining me today. So I will be, I'll be back next week. If you're on my email list, you'll be getting that in your inbox. If you're not on my email list, consider it. If you'd like to, information is down below in the description. I also have free class in my classroom and a free community. So take your pick. Okay, friends, I'll see you next week. And yeah, happy holidays. We're in the thick of it. Okay, bye now.